The history of the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church begins back in 1983. Then, Conference President Elder Ralph B. Harrison, the late Joseph Henson, and the late Walter Hawk assisted in developing a crusade in the West End area of Atlanta. It was in the summer of 1983 that evangelist Oscar Lane of Los Angeles, California, was invited to conduct what came to be known as the Big Red Tent Crusade on the corner of Lee and Oglethorpe Streets in southwest Atlanta. God greatly blessed this effort with 1,353 souls baptized. The first meeting of the newly organized group was held in the West Hunter Street Baptist Church on August 20th, 1983. In search of a home, the young church was next permitted to hold services in the Brown High School Auditorium on People Street in southwest Atlanta. Leading the flock were Pastors F.W. Parker, C. Henry, Pastor C. Neesmith, and Pastor C. L. Humphrey. In July of 1984, after the departure of Pastor F.W. Parker, the church continued to achieve new heights of spiritual, social, and educational accomplishments under the youthful and dynamic leadership of Pastor Ernest B. Young. On the 31st day of March 1985, Pastor Young called the congregation together to begin to build the house of the Lord.
When Elijah prayed, Lord, open the eyes of this young man. I want you to understand something about God. He didn't have to wait until God came. He didn't have to wait for God to send the angels. They were already there. Amen. God says, just like the clay is in the potter's hand, so my church is in my hand. The angels were already there. God said, when the time comes, before you call, I'll answer.
Even as the church building was being constructed, the church body never neglected to work faithfully in the vineyard for the Master. In an effort to aid the completion of the church's construction, members of West End often volunteered to work at the site. They would hammer, push wheelbarrows, clean up, and haul away debris. It was cold that Sabbath morning when the church arrived to find out that they had been locked out of Brown High School. But with a stout heart, Pastor Ernest Young first led the church in prayer and then led them to the construction site of their new church home. That day, the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church building project became the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church. May 13th, 1989. The house of the Lord is complete. Pastor Young gathered all the elders, church congregation, and supporters of West End together for the grand celebration and service of dedication. That day, we rejoiced as we marched into our God-given home. Throughout his time at West End, the Lord worked mightily through Pastor Young to raise up a building, and more importantly, a people to bring glory to his name. Assisted by Pastor Taylor, West End became a beacon in the community. In 1991, Earl W. Moore succeeded Ernest Young as pastor of the West End Seventh-day Adventist Church. Assisting him, Pastors Wolford, Pastor Tatras, Eugene Mason, and youth pastor Mason West III. Pastor Moore left us a legacy of community outreach, evangelism, and care for our fellow men. From April 1998 to August 2006, Pastor A.E. Freeman led the church and the community in praise, worship, and thanksgiving to the living God. And the mission continues.
Somebody ought to say amen.